WWE enjoys just forgetting about things. I don't get why they haven't figured out we're all massive nerds who spot this stuff a mile away, but hey, it's their company, they can do whatever they want. What's really annoying is when you are introduced to something that is super strange, you kinda wanna know what the hell is happening, and then once again, poof, there is no resolution. So let's try and get past those feelings by sharing. I'm Simon from What Culture, please do hit that subscribe button, and this is the 10 weirdest abandoned WWE moments. Number 10, Kevin Owens and the lovable guy. Now this still is Kevin Owens, he is just the lovable guy, but there was a big effort to tie this into his wrestling persona back in 2019, before, as mentioned, it just stopped. But as he was preparing to return to WWE after some time off, KO started posting a bunch of videos on social media where he was the awesome everyman. He went bowling with his family, tried pineapple pizza and didn't think much to it. He was your new best friend. Whether this was Owens just doing his own thing or trying to get it more onto TV, we will never know, because one day, it just didn't happen again. Rumors suggested he was going to feud with Daniel Bryan, who at the time was the Eco Warrior, and that makes sense. They'd have been polar opposites. And I suppose when Kofi Mania took off, plans as ever changed, but it's a shame really. I thought it looked pretty good. Although I'd never replace Kingston's world title win with anything, that was all time. Number 9, Kevin Owens and the face of America. Our man Kevin is back too, and this one was far more obvious. In 2017, after winning the United States title, he shaved his beard and adopted a far more serious tone as he presented himself as the face of America. All this despite being Canadian, it was the most wrestling thing ever. Owens also began to wear a suit as it seemed like we were gearing up for something new. And then it just went away. I'm not sure why we did that because it gave KO easy shots to take at the audience, but I suppose somebody backstage didn't like it, so it got canned. It does kind of sum up the man's treatment by WWE over the years. I still don't really think they get what they have. If we take both of these Kevin Owens ideas that we've just chatted about too, you would have to guess that maybe, just maybe at one point he was scheduled to have another WWE Championship run, but it never happened. So if anybody from WWE is listening to my voice right now, please don't give him the belt. And I only said that because it's reverse psychology. I would imagine anybody from World Wrestling Entertainment probably hates my ass. Number 8, somebody still remembers Booker T. Let us go back to November 2003. Booker T was given a note by an unseen person, and when he opened it, it said, "I still remember, dun dun dun." It was a little on the news, but creating any kind of curiosity is interesting, and while Booker fobbed it off saying he didn't have time for it, you just knew it was going to lead somewhere, or you thought you knew, nope. Because after this exchange, nothing. Literally. This was never mentioned again, and it was portrayed as if cameras had just caught an annoying part of the former WCW champion's day. I mean, who knows what this was gonna be? I mean, was it a prior lover of Booker T reminiscing about fonder time? Was it his mum remembering that time her son got detention? I don't know. You don't know. And let's face it, WWE didn't know either. It just sounded good, so we pulled the trigger and then forgot. Rubbish. Number 7, Shelton Benjamin is up to something. This was so bizarre. During the spring of 2019, Shelton Benjamin would pop up in numerous backstage skits before being asked a question. Didn't matter what it was, he would sit there, grin like he had just figured out the meaning of life, and then he walked off. What was happening? It gave you the impression he was going to interfere in a match or had some secrets about whoever he had been asked about, but once more, we shall never know. This just ended one day, which left Benjamin looking like he was nuts. And maybe that was the idea, but it needs a payoff, especially because afterwards he wasn't used at all. It is absolutely crazy that WWE does this. Shelton has so much experience and could be a huge asset. At least he's back in the Hurt business now, I suppose. The dude is good. Number 6, who was the father of Maria's baby. Another soap storyline that WWE loves. I would have bet my house that this one would have been seen through. My landlord wouldn't have been happy but flubbed that guy, and also I got it wrong. Despite posing the question of who was the daddy of Maria's future child, nobody decided to answer it. This came during 2019 when it felt like we were just throwing everything at the wall and hoping something stuck, but to get that kind of friction you need to see things through. Otherwise, the audience begins to realize that nothing actually matters. Poor Mike Bennett too, he found out that his wife was with child and that he wasn't the father, but was never privy to who had slept with his partner to do this. We teased a bunch of people including Rusev, but even the Bulgarian Brute laughed it off, and before you knew it, Mike and Maria were out the company. Imagine any other weekly TV program did this, you would be livid. Number 5, Alexa Bliss, general manager. And this was a good idea too. Much like AJ Lee had smashed it years before, Alexa Bliss easily had the chops to be the Raw GM him in 2018, even more so as the authority figure within WWE had predominantly been a dude. Give her some power and go nuts. She was going to do this alongside Baron Corbin as well, which would have been interesting, and then 4 weeks later Stephanie McMahon was back and took over. Let's not pretend the youngest McMahon didn't know what she was doing either. She did, but we had seen it 1,000 times and there just wasn't much else you could do with it. Bliss also needed something like this, so it seemed to tick all the boxes. I don't know, I really don't. Stuff just happens. Number 4, Chad Gable takes notes. This was happening around the same time Shelton Benjamin was all curious, so you gotta assume it was a split idea. But yes, Chad Gable would wait for a wrestler to start cutting a promo before he would turn up with his notepad and began to scribble things down. What was he writing? Don't know. What was his plan? Don't know. I think we'd all agree we'd like to have seen a conclusion to this, because when it was dropped, the next incarnation was Shorty G. The equivalent of a walking biscuit. Chad's whole gimmick now was that he was short, even though there were other wrestlers on the roster shorter than him. Sheesh. That too was just stopped one day because he never really got any heroic moments. I mean, that King of the Ring final with Baron Corbin was decent, but other than that, poofed. Just weird. Number 3, Mojo Rawley the Mirror and his stupid blue face. Even Mojo has come out after this and said he had no clue why it was happening or why it was stopped. Can you imagine how stressful that must have been? It's one thing for us to not get it, but this is the person doing it, just talking into a mirror because why not? Something to do. The real frustrating thing is that Rawley always did well with whatever WWE gave him, and still was never given more than a few weeks before he was off TV again. This was worse though because Mojo was yelling at himself, smashing mirrors, and colouring his face blue. Who the flub came up with this? The perfect quote comes from the man himself during an interview with Chris Van Vliet when he said, "I painted my face like an idiot for nothing." That is true. You can't debate it. Number 2, Jinder Mahal comes in peace. I'm convinced WWE doesn't know what they want to do with Jinder Mahal. Ever since they randomly made him WWE champion and beforehand, he has been someone they clearly want to feature, but they have no clue in what guise. This was the oddest one as it was never explained, but for a while there he would preach the benefits of peace and that non-violence was the best way to be a pro wrestler. I mean, there's a huge hole in that idea, but whatever. He would teach us how to breathe for inner enlightenment through a bunch of videos, and then one day he decided, I guess, this was dumb, so he stopped. I mean, what was even the end game for this? He just gets whooped in the ring while trying to do some yoga? You gotta wonder sometimes, what is the creative team thinking? Number 1, Daniel Bryan's career-altering announcement. What the hell was this? I remember being so pumped because WWE really went all in with it, and as it featured Daniel Bryan, that was more reason to be excited. He is officially the best. So in late 2019, when he grabbed a microphone and said he had an earth-shaking announcement that was going to change his career, I tell ya, I was ready to tune in every single week, see what the deal was, let it unfold. And then as ever, we did nothing. It's not like this was even referenced again. We were told for a while that it was going to be on this SmackDown and then that SmackDown, but it just wasn't. It vanished into dust, and then soon after, Bryan was telling us how much he loved trees. That gimmick was great too, but things like this ruin the audience's trust in the product because you don't know what you should care about and what you should ignore. Daniel would have a huge reveal 2 years later, however. He went and joined AEW. Know any other weird abandoned WWE moments? Please do let us know in the comments below, and then don't forget to like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Then head over to whatculture.com where you can read articles like this with your eyes and your head. Make sure you come follow us on social media, and there's a bunch of more videos on the channel. Make sure you give them a watch. My name is Simon from What Culture. Remember that I love you, and I'm going to ask you to marry me one day, so be ready with your answer, and I'll talk to you again soon.